The World Cup is almost a century old. In fact, its 100-year anniversary will be at the next tournament in 2030. That's being shared across Spain and Morocco. And while there are new innovations from time to time, the present trophy, for instance, dates back to 1974, many things stay the same. There's a rotating host nation, the winner automatically qualifies for the next tournament, and the players win medals. All of those have been mainstays of the competition since its inaugural tournament, held in Uruguay and won by the host nation back in 1930. Back then, the winners were given gold medals, the runners-up silver ones, and the public could buy commemorative bronze medals. Today, however, it was announced that those who win the trophy wouldn't just receive a medal, but a ring as well. Taking a lead from the American tradition, specifically the Super Bowl, the victorious team will each be given a bulbous, rather expensive-looking ring. Each of those rings will be individually engraved with their personal details, as well as being adorned by a carved World Cup trophy and what looks to be a plethora of precious gems. It's all rather bling, isn't it? As if there wasn't already enough of that in football. And now you might be thinking, so what? Sure, it's a bit strange that the winners get a ring and a medal, but this is a tournament hosted by the US, and that's an American tradition. Maybe, Aaron, you should just be a bit more culturally sensitive. But here's where things get really interesting, because those rings won't be given just to the people that win the trophy, those footballers who achieve a once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment of winning the World Cup. After all, that would be too meritocratic for Trump's America and Gianni Infantino's FIFA. No, because you'll also be able to buy them. Well, I say you, unless you're a multimillionaire, probably not. In a nod to the tournament's year, 2026, 2,026 rings will be created, and with 30 given to the winning squad, that means 1,996 will be available to buy, if you can afford them, that is. Here's a glimpse of what those rings will look like. Gold, diamonds, those look like blue sapphires. They certainly don't look cheap. It's like something from a P. Diddy video in the early 2000s. I'm half expecting Infantino to break out into verse and start rapping how it's all about the Benjamins. You just need a Maybach and a mink coat to pull those off. Yesterday, I felt gay, Arab, a migrant, a refugee, but today, I feel like Gucci Mane. Explaining the thinking behind the move, FIFA wrote this on their website. Each ring will be part of a strictly limited edition of just 2,026 individually numbered pieces, a direct tribute to the tournament itself. Of these, 30 will be presented to the victorious team, while 1,996 will be made available to fans worldwide as an official licensed product, the important bit, allowing supporters to own a unique piece of FIFA World Cup 2026 history. A unique piece. The subtext is they're going to be bloody expensive. One side of the ring proudly features the FIFA World Cup trophy, while the other will be customized to reflect the identity of the winning team. Each ring will be individually numbered, custom fitted, and delivered with its own certificate of authenticity. Kind of sounds like getting a Rolex watch. You have the ring, I'm afraid it's only worth a third of that $30,000 without the certificate of authenticity. Paul. Who are the 1,996 people who are going to be able to afford these rings?
Well, for one thing, I'm going to start saving up. I think these are great rings. I'm going to buy them. I proposed to my partner, Jess, maybe about 9 months ago. And
congratulations.
I still haven't gotten her a ring. This is the ring I'm going to get her. She's going to love it. And every time I make her a cup of tea or coffee, we're going to have a hydration break to be sponsored in our house.
Is Jess a football fan?
She was a football fan until this World Cup. Actually,
yeah.
This has been such a frustrating World Cup to watch. She's like, VAR has killed football.
Yeah.
She started, she only watches every 4 years since the VAR has destroyed this World Cup altogether.
I was a football fan until the 3rd minute of injury time in the semi-final. And then, no way. We'll talk about that more at the end perhaps. But, this is really important. I have actually no problem with the rings being available to the players as a one-off thing. It's an American tournament. I think it's interesting, right? And if you want to make it really blingy and expensive looking or whatever, gold has been I know the medals aren't actually made of solid gold anymore. But that's been like a thing, that the ornamentation is part of being the victor. I get it. But I think this just says, and this is why we're covering the story, it says so much about this tournament and where football is headed that you get to win at this ring, but even if you can't win it, don't worry, you can still get one if you can pay $100,000. And that to me sums up everything that's going wrong with football, with FIFA, with this World Cup, and dare I say, actually, some of the worst impulses of our societies, which I think are encapsulated by FIFA right now. You know, it's no longer about being good enough. It's no longer about, you know, merit. As we saw with the red card being rescinded for an ultimately average striker that was playing for the United States team, the old rules seem to have been thrown out of the window.
Yeah, this feels like, to me, this is the first time, this is the most egregious, I think, FIFA's been, the most like openly money grubbing. Because actually, you know, FIFA is a pretty horrific organization in general terms and has been like associated with like wrongdoing and like high level corruption for an incredibly long time. This is the first time they've been like brazen about it. This is the first time they've like really indulged this as a positive thing. I feel like this is the first like Javier Milei FIFA World Cup, you know, where it's like, well, yeah, we actually are going to destroy the planet and destroy the world. We're going to do it with a chainsaw, and we're going to sell these rings, and we're going to bring in a hydration break, and we're going to make a huge amount of money, and we're going to just come in and change the rules at the last minute. I mean, the football that's actually happened and the World Cup that's happened, it feels like to me the extent that it's been enjoyable has been totally despite that. It's been despite FIFA, not because of it. And I feel like that's a problem. Like that's a really deep fundamental problem. Is that actually most of our football that we watch in the world, like the Premier League, whatever, is good despite of the people who run it at this point in time, because their objectives and like their incentives and the way they pursue this, and like just like this blatant money grubbing is distasteful. It's grotesque, right? Because the rings are one thing, but the rings are emblematic of the fact that you have to be incredibly wealthy to go to a game.
Yeah,
like to even participate in the World Cup now is like beyond the dreams of almost anybody on the planet at this point. To actually go to America, I'd have to join in some mad secondary market for tickets.
Or even Americans. I mean, that's the crazy thing, right?
Right.
Or even to, you know, you're saying it's expensive to watch a game. It's expensive to host a World Cup. You know, we're not. I don't think we're going to see another poor country host a World Cup anytime soon while Infantino's in charge. I know that Morocco's co-hosting it with Spain, and we had Mexico this time with the US, the middle-income countries. But South Africa in 2010, a genuine global South country. I don't think Infantino is going to do that anytime soon.
No, and it was bad enough for South Africa back then. Because South Africa, basically, at the end, that was the World Cup where the global South realized it was getting a raw deal from the World Cups. Because actually, that was the World Cup where South Africa was sold on this idea that 2010 was going to be an economic renaissance. Now, it was like fabulous to have the World Cup in South Africa. It was like fun, it was exciting. The society, like everybody embraced it. It was a great World Cup. Everybody loved that Spain won, even though, you know, Uruguay with the worst villains imaginable. But the actual underlying economics were terrible for the country, because South Africa ended up footing the bill for building all these stadiums which aren't used. Like there's a massive stadium in Cape Town, which is basically a white elephant, right? Taking up a huge amount of land in this like incredibly beautiful part of the Sea Point Peninsula in Cape Town. Is basically unused. There's one local club who plays in it. There's 500 people go watch it. It's a stadium of 50,000 people, right? Like there's white elephants across the country. Not just that, but there was huge amounts of corruption in building the stadium. And then whistleblowers who were blowing the corruption on the stadium building were being killed, right? And FIFA, we didn't quite realize when we were pitching for the World Cup, FIFA was actually saying, you know, we're going to turn this area into a tax-free zone. This is going to be a tax haven over here. We're not going to contribute to the cost of it, right? Which makes me think that pretty much the only places that are going to host a World Cup are only those countries that already have an infrastructure, or those countries who want to basically use sport washing. Because that's the other thing that FIFA does. Is like really like disgusting, like properly problematic.
Well, we're on a roll now, aren't we? We've got Russia, Qatar, the US. Although I don't think Trump invented inverse sports washing, where you use a global football event to actually undermine your national brand. But that's a separate conversation.
But it definitely feels to me like there is something that makes it harder as a football fan. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I find it harder and harder and harder as a football fan to enjoy the game, because I feel like when I'm enjoying even the Premier League, I'm finding that I'm having to enjoy it in spite of the infrastructure around it, in spite of the FA, in spite of the money making around it. And I feel like there's a point at which it comes harder and harder and harder to know. I mean, you know, it happened with the AFCON Cup final, right? I mean, just an absolutely mad situation where basically Senegal won, right? And it was political pressure that you had after the tournament. The trophy was taken away from Senegal. That's political pressure. That's absolutely corrosive to like the idea of being able to enjoy football. Just the worst possible thing you could possibly imagine. And I feel like FIFA, left to its own devices, sends football into like the place where in the end referees are being bribed. Like that's where the stuff ends,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It becomes WWE. It's not football. And I think there's a part of FIFA that would quite like that. There's a part of me as a football fan who is like, I would start watching something else altogether.
That's good. Sports being replaced by sports entertainment. I think there's something to that. I have to say, before we go to this final bit of the story, I mean, I don't like Argentina, obviously. I didn't like them in that semi-final for sure. But that's something that really struck me with Argentina. And it's not really something I've seen so much in the World Cup, particularly amongst the leading nations, is how much they cared. You know, for England, ultimately the players generally care about the Champions League. They care about their historically anyway, less so now, but before, mostly about club football. The Argentine national side are desperate to win for Argentina, and I really commend that. In another nod to the creeping Americanization of the World Cup, it's also been announced that the halftime break will feature the likes of Madonna, Shakira, and it's going to last half an hour. The Telegraph reports this. Halftime in the World Cup final could last up to half an hour thanks to FIFA's controversial Super Bowl-style interval. The BBC and ITV are bracing themselves for a 30-minute break to accommodate an 11-minute halftime show, along with the usual 15-minute mid-game analysis. The laws of the game prohibit the interval of any football match lasting more than 15 minutes, but FIFA's already flouted them at last year's Club World Cup, with one that stretched to 25 minutes. With the governing body wanting to create a World Cup final halftime show to rival that for which the Super Bowl has long been renowned, broadcasters are expecting it to last even longer. That could make the final of the lengthiest edition of football's flagship fixture. Each half already features 3-minute hydration breaks, which many suspect are a Trojan horse for additional adverts. Madonna, Justin Bieber, Shakira, BTS, Burna Boy, Gustavo Dudamel, I have no idea what I'm talking about at this point, and the PS22 chorus featuring Coldplay are due to perform on Sunday at New Jersey's MetLife Stadium. Give me strength. Football is a match that lasts 90 minutes. You include injury time, you include halftime, it's 2 hours. They're trying to turn it into American football where it's 4 hours. That's not a game. Like you said, sports entertainment with some adverts thrown in. Paul, you know, there was a great quote recently from Jurgen Klopp in response to that red card being rescinded for the USA striker. They were talking about him like he was Lionel Messi. I think he plays for Monaco now, but he's, whatever, he played for Ream. He played for Middlesbrough 10 minutes ago. And Klopp said, they're trying to take our game away from us. And I think it's a classic example of it, right? You've got the rings, and now we've got a halftime show, which means more adverts. I don't want to see Shakira. Good luck to her, but I want to watch the football. What do you think?
I mean, is that story true?
It's in the Telegraph. It must be true.
I mean, that would be a start. I mean, that would be an absolutely insane thing for like the first time in football history to have a half an hour halftime in the World Cup final. That's madness. That's an absolutely mad
But it's also
idea.
very predictable, right? Because that's when it's going to make the most money for
Absolutely.
for FIFA.
I mean, it's clearly like a huge money-making scheme. It's also so depressing seeing like this. There's something about like seeing that lineup that just depresses me. It's like the worst elements of like globalized monoculture capitalism being forced into us around the football. And I think it's interesting about the World Cup for me. Like maybe it's because I'm South African. We only got to play in the World Cup later. But I feel like there was like a real like mythos around the World Cup. There was like it felt like real and raw. People like celebrated as something that's all about these like massive legends of the game, semi-ordinary people you can imagine yourself being. You could imagine yourself being, as a 7-year-old being in the World Cup final. This doesn't feel like it's real. I do wonder, like thinking about the sports entertainment thing. I'm going to say something that maybe, I don't know how many Americans watch this, but I wonder if Americans don't understand the idea that you don't need to make a sport more entertaining because their sports are fundamentally very boring.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to make football interesting. Football is interesting. It's 90 minutes, it's 45 minutes, it's a full-on contest. Which if you go have you ever gone to watch a baseball match in America?
No.
It's like unwatchable. Really, it's
unwatchable.
It's unwatchable. It is so boring.
Good, I believe it.
Like, because like it's, and again, I'm saying this as a cricket fan, but like you sit in the stands and you basically half the time the batters aren't hitting the ball. Like half the time, I'd say 90% of the strikes are either called strike or they're a foul ball. You almost never have any hits. What people go there for is like after every innings, there's a set piece of entertainment.
Yeah.
And I was
You get the hot
like,
dog.
You get the hot dog, but then you
wear
have
the
like
caps.
everybody stands and sings the song, and everybody stands and and they do like a whole performance. And half the people who are there are to be entertained in that way. And same with American football, because American football doesn't flow. You have set pieces. You basically have a set piece happens, and then they basically turn off playing.
And then you get an ad break.
And then they reset and they have an ad break and then they come back and they do another play. But it's not 45 minutes of like continuous sport. And that's what they're not understanding. I think this is like American sport is fundamentally boring and they've made it entertainment. Whereas actually we're like, it's just let us watch the football. We don't need to watch Shakira.
Well, no, when I was a kid, I remember Channel 4, I think, used to play loads of American sports, American football, baseball, for some reason. I remember watching basketball for the first time. Maybe people watching this love basketball, I'm sorry. Some Europeans love basketball as well, like Serbia. And I'm watching basketball and I'm thinking, what is this game? They're constantly scoring. How do people watch this for an hour? There's no... And when you miss, that's when you get excited, oh, they missed. So it doesn't make sense. You've inverted the laws of what should be compelling viewing, right? Somebody's done something. No, they haven't done something. That's why you should care. This is ridiculous. It's not a real sport. I think we'll leave it there, Paul.
Let's leave it off with basketball is not a real sport and see how people respond to that.
Well, baseball's the good. I mean, baseball, I think it kind of, look, people, I love when Brits go to watch these things. They go to watch baseball because it's like, I'm in a film. It's like, okay, good for you. Yeah. You think you're in a film, but it doesn't make it a good sport. I was in a department store in Canada watching a baseball game with a beer. And I'm thinking, oh, this is like being in a film. It's terrible to watch. Anyway, who's your prediction to win the World Cup final?
Well, Spain, obviously. Of course, it's going to be Spain.
You think?
Yeah. They're a better overall squad and they're a better team, I think. The question for me is the extent to which, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but it definitely feels like Argentina have gotten away with being physical. That if they have a referee who stamps that out early on, they're going to be at a disadvantage. I
think that's really true. That's I'm not making excuses for England, but I think if there was a different referee, I think that game looks very different. I'm not making excuses.
If it was a Champions League referee, I think in the game on the weekend, that's a different game.
A couple of sendings off, I think. Anyway, I said to my wife, look, I have no emotional investment in England because I'm 42, I've seen enough. And jaded old me at 60 minutes, I felt like I was having a heart attack. I was like, we're going to do it. Of course we didn't do it.